All right. Self-concept, self-esteem, and self-efficacy for teens. The canvas of confidence. Ben stared at the blank canvas on his desk. The watercolor paints beside him untouched. His art teacher, Mrs. Reynolds, had assigned the class a self-portrait project, one that was meant to reflect how you see yourself. That was the problem. Ben wasn't sure who he saw when he looked in the mirror. At 12 years old, Ben struggled with his self-concept, his understanding of who he really was. Other kids in the class had clear identities. Marcus was the soccer star. Tara played the violin like a pro, and Zoe always aced every test without trying. But Ben was like a shadow, drifting through school unnoticed. I'm just average, he mumbled to himself as he twirled the paintbrush in his fingers. The voice in his head, the one he'd grown all too familiar with, whispered doubts. You're not good at anything. He thought about his last attempt to join the soccer team, quitting after 2 practices because he felt out of place. Then there was the guitar his mom bought him for his birthday. He'd given up on that too. Each failure chipped away at his self-esteem, leaving him more convinced that trying wasn't worth it. Ben! His mom's voice broke the silence. Are you still working on that art project? Trying to, Ben sighed. Well, give it a shot. You'll figure it out, she said kindly. Her words made him pause. Figure it out seemed so simple. But the truth was, Ben didn't believe in his ability to succeed. His self-efficacy, his belief that he could actually complete something, was at an all-time low. The next day in art class, Marcus glanced at Ben's blank canvas and shook his head. What are you waiting for? Marcus asked. I don't know. I'm waiting until I'm better, I guess. Ben admitted, barely loud enough for anyone to hear. Marcus frowned. How do you get better if you don't start? Those words lingered in Ben's mind long after class. That night, he sat at his desk, the blank canvas staring back at him. How do you get better? He whispered. He thought about Marcus practicing soccer every day after school, even in the rain. Tara didn't become great at violin overnight either. She practiced scales every morning before class. Maybe the difference wasn't talent. Maybe the difference was trying. Ben hesitated, but finally dipped his brush into the blue paint. He swiped it across the canvas, creating a rough background. The color spread unevenly, pooling in places where his brush was too heavy. It's a mess, he muttered. But something strange happened. He didn't feel like stopping. He added yellow to the corners, then streaks of green and purple. The lines weren't perfect and the proportions were off, but the more he painted, the more the canvas began to reflect something real, himself. A little chaotic, a little uncertain, but full of color and effort. For the first time, Ben didn't care if it wasn't perfect. What mattered was that he was doing it. By the time he set his brush down, hours had passed. The self-portrait was far from professional, but it was his. The boy stared back from the canvas, surrounded by vibrant colors, with brushstrokes that told a story of persistence. The next day, Ben brought his painting to class. His stomach turned as he placed it on the table with the others. Mrs. Reynolds paused when he saw his work and smiled. Ben, there's something special about this. I see courage in it. Courage? Ben asked, surprised. Yes, she said. You didn't hide. You put yourself on the canvas, and that takes bravery. Ben felt a flicker of pride, small but powerful. Marcus grinned at him from across the table. Told you, he said. On the walk home, Ben carried his painting carefully. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like a shadow. He wasn't invincible. He wasn't average. He was trying. That night, He pulled his guitar from its case, blew off the dust, and started strumming. It sounded awful at first, but Ben just smiled. If he learned anything, it was this: you don't have to be great to start, you just have to start to become great. And for Ben, that was enough.